Hello guys, welcome to next video. In this video we're gonna discuss about the information structures, which are also called data structures. So what we will be discussing about what are data structures, how the data structures are stored inside the memory, what type of data structures we have, how we can put the data, how we can create a new data structure in the memory, how we can put the data into it, how we can remove the data from a data structure, and also we will be talking about how we can remove a data structure as a whole from our memory. So let's start. So what is a data structure? Data structure is nothing but it is some sort of structured data, sort of structured data. Now what does this mean? That our data is in a structure means there are a lot of parts of it. Like we have an array, so we have a array. It's a data structure because in an array, like 1 2 3 4, so this is our array, and in our array we have four numbers, so this whole is a data structure. Now the next question is why we need data structures in computer science. This is a fundamental question that a computer science student would ask when his or her professor will tell you that we're gonna discuss about data structure. Why we need data structure? Because in our memory we can store the data, but if we store data with certain structures, we will be able to use our memory efficiently. It means that it will increase the efficiency of the memory and also help us to use the space available in memory efficiently. And if we use the space available in memory efficiently, then we can bring the memory wastage down, which ultimately will lead to the costing, the cost that we are putting into buying a new PC will reduce, and our memory will be efficient if we store data in the form of data structures. So why we need to we need to use data structures to store the data into the memory. Why the data is stored in form of data structures? Why data is stored in the form of is stored in the form of data structures in memory. So let's suppose this is our memory. As we know, our memory has columns and rows. I will not be going up to like transistor level into the memory. This is our memory just at the higher abstraction level. So here our data will be stored in these cells. These cells contain our data, and if we store the data in the form of a structure, then it will be very easy to access this structure and also to access a particular element. Let's consider an example that I want to access this cell, and I already know, because I have stored it in this way, that this X is a part of this data structure. Then I can just, in my program, I can just say that go to this location, and then I can provide a certain offset to my processor saying that, hey processor, go to this position number 1, and from 1 take 3 leaps, 1 2 3, take 3 leaps, and whatever there, grab it to the register in the processor. It can be either register A or register X, as in the mixed computer architecture. So this is very useful while storing the data into the memory. Now we have done with why we need the data structure to store the data in the memory. The key points take away from this is to use the memory efficiently, to reduce the cost. These are the two main factors, and also one other factor is accessibility of the data. If we are storing data in the form of a data structure, it is quite easier to access it when we need it in our program. Now let's move on to next thing. The next thing that we will be discussing is we have discussed data structures or information structures, whatever you want to call that, that would be fine. Next thing is how these data structures are allocated into the memory. Here we have our memory. Here is our memory. How different data structures are allocated in the memory. Allocation of memory. Let's briefly consider an example for this. Like if we have an array and we also have a matrix. This is our matrix of data. This is usually thing that a high school student know what is a matrix, and this is an array. So here we have three columns in our array. Here we have three rows, three columns in our matrix. Now how these two things will go into the memory, like how these two things will be stored into the memory, that will be different. We will be learning about that also, allocation of the memory. And the next thing is how we represent our data structure. Representing data structure, like this is just for understanding, this is just for academic purpose, like how we will be understanding data for academics, for academic purpose only, like how we represent data in the form of a graph or something like that. Okay, now the main thing that comes to mind after learning all these is, like I have my memory, yep, and now I want to create a data structure. The first question that comes to mind is, now I know what is data structure, why we need it. Now I want to create a data structure. How to create data structure? So as we know that in computer, to do any task we need an algorithm. So what are the algorithms that I can use? We will be using certain algorithms to create the data structures. Also in higher level languages like C++ or Java, you may already know that how we create arrays, which are a type of data structure, simplest type of data structure I should say. But in lower level languages, this will be converting to certain algorithm which we can also implement in C++ or Java or any other programming language. So this is our first point. Number second, now suppose that we have created an array in our memory. So here we have, sorry, this green one is not working, I don't know why. Let's begin. So here we want to create an array in our memory. We will be using certain algorithm to do that. So suppose our algorithm has created this array at a memory location, say OX, at a memory location say 1. Number 1, this is not in the memory, the locations are stored in terms of the hexadecimal. I am just using this for the simplicity. We have created an array. Now the next question that comes to mind is how we store the data. Storing data in data structure. So for that as well, there will be an algorithm, like we can use the loops like for loop or while loop to store the data. Now where does the data come from? Either the data will be entered by user, like in C++, we can say scanf. We can use scanf to scan the inputs from the user. So here we will be doing some scanf and asking the user for 4 numbers. User will put, then it will goes to these positions. Suppose that the first number is 12, second is 15, 8, 7. In this way our data is stored. For storing data as well, we use algorithms, which in most of the programming language is nothing but the loops, like for loop, while loop, or until loop, or any other combination of the loops. And the next thing is, now we have made a data structure, we have stored data into it. Now I suppose that today I stored this data in my memory and shut off my computer. The next day I want to access this data, I want to use this data for some purpose. How I can do that? So accessing data is the next point. So I want to access, suppose, this thing in my memory. So how I can access? Like in C++, how I will be accessing this data from an array? This is question for you. How, or what is the code for accessing the data from an array? This you need to put as, this is kind of homework for you guys to do and put in the comment section. But briefly I will be explaining what is the algorithm for doing this. The algorithm is, we will be accessing this location, our pointer will be at this point. From there we will be taking some certain offset to this position and will be accessing this data. That's it. This is accessing data. Now updating data is also there. If I say that I mistakenly stored 7, or later I want to change this value, then I need to do updating data. Now what does involve in updating data? It's same like in updating. Firstly, what we will be doing, accessing the location at which we want to do updating, accessing location. Then what we'll be doing, destroying that data, and what next, putting new data. Now this is a simple thing to update the data. Now the last question about data structure is, if we want to destroy a data structure, we have created an array in our memory. Like in C++, memory allocation is a tricky thing. You need to create, you need to allocate the space, and you need to destroy the memory that you have allocated as well to certain program when you are done with it, because otherwise it's gonna crap your other programs. So destroying data structures is also one important thing. There are certain algorithms for doing that as well. We will be discussing this, all of these maybe in the next few lectures. So this is our one other thing, destroying data structures. So this is pretty much for the day. What we have discussed information structures, which is also called data structures. Why we use data structures to store data in memory, how to create a data structure, how to put data into data structure, how to update data in a data structure, and do a lot of stuff with the data structure. Now the key takeaway that I want to give you is why we need data structures: to optimize the memory uses and to reduce the cost of the computer. That's it. That's it for the data structures. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, share, and like if you find this useful. Thank you.